strongly, I know for a fact, Charlie disliked Ben. Why would you let him buy his way onto the stage? Charlie said no, for a fact, to more Zionist control at Turning Point USA. He signaled to the troops, this is done, it is over. Charlie said no to Bibi Netanyahu coming on his show. So he was done being bullied by Zionist dollars. Is that the energy that we're getting right now from Turning Point USA? I broke the story and people didn't believe me because it sounds made up. I'm not making this up. There was scheduled a few weeks ago for Bibi Netanyahu, Erica Kirk, and Ben Shapiro to film together something. Maybe it was supposed to be for the Super Bowl. I don't know, but it got canceled at the last second. They were filming something in Palm Beach, and it got canceled last second. Does that feel like the direction of travel that Charlie Kirk was going into? We can't even get his widow to at least come out and tell the truth about Charlie shifting positions. Does that not strike you as odd? Again, we're now in subjective territory, but does that not strike you as odd to at least say, as I would feel and as I have felt, like, screw you, Josh Hammer, and this person, everybody who was mean to him and stressed him out in those final days? We're not even getting that energy. And in case you still do not believe what I have maintained from the very beginning about Charlie, who had flipped his position on Israel, I want to show you this clip of Megyn Kelly, which is going viral from her appearance on Piers Morgan's show. Now, Megyn Kelly is not the person that I expected to be one of the very few people with a platform who knew Charlie, who simply did the right thing and told the truth. Okay? She has taken a ton of flack for that. I also want to be clear that her and I do not agree. She supports Turning Point USA. She supports the direction Turning Point USA is going into ostensibly. She disagrees with me on a great many number of topics. But at this juncture, I would probably crawl over broken glass to defend her, even if I didn't agree with her positions, because she showed that she has a soul. And apparently that's rare in politics. She showed and demonstrated that she had a soul when a good man was murdered in broad daylight in front of the entire world. And she had the courage to simply tell the truth. She said, yes, Charlie changed his mind of a topic of Israel. She believes that Tyler Robinson was the person, as she has said on her show. Again, we don't agree, but she thinks that it was Tyler Robinson who did this. And she agrees with the narrative that we're not getting a lot of details because it's just making its way through its court system. But that hasn't made her lie about what Charlie was going through at the end. Why is it Megyn Kelly? Charlie Kirk didn't make Megyn Kelly. Charlie Kirk did not employ Megyn Kelly. She wasn't making tons of money at Turning Point USA. Charlie Kirk didn't sweat and lose sleep trying to build up Megyn Kelly. But all of his lieutenants around him, they're silent. They're letting the lies fly. This is Megyn Kelly on Piers Morgan, and she makes an incredible point that they're all coming after her. I don't know why she's always responsible for what I say, even though we don't agree. I don't even go on her show. But they don't go after people like Piers Morgan, who he actually does platform me. Take a listen to what she had to say.
And just on Candace Owens, you've been very supportive of her, not critical, even though she, I would argue, and I have to her face when I've had her on the show, well, I get on well with Candace, but some of the stuff she's been doing in relation to Erica Kirk, Brigitte Macron, and others, I do think is really regrettable, kind of conspiracy theory nonsense just for clicks and money. Why would you hesitate before criticizing her over stuff like that?
I've criticized Candace many times over the years. We've had many public fights over the years. But isn't it interesting that you will, quote, platform Candace? She hasn't been on my show in several years, but I get all the hard time. Why am I getting that? You're the one, quote, platforming Candace Owens. She and I don't have that kind of relationship. Candace took a bunch of crap because she was very anti-Israel in the Gaza war. And it became a thing where you had to say she was terrible in her positioning. And then after Charlie died, she started questioning whether Israel had any role in it. And that's when they really tried to amp up the pressure on me to condemn her. And I refused because Charlie was starting to have serious questions about Israel. Not just its role in the Gaza war, but its influence on American politicians, something he and I spent hours and hours discussing. So I had no problem with Candace Owens asking those questions. And I refused to condemn her because I was under pressure from these people who wanted me to. And then that morphed into then everything Candace said thereafter, with which I may or may not have had serious problems, that I had to, where's the condemnation? And it was all really about the Israel thing. And I'd rather die than bend the knee to these people. I'd rather die than bend the knee. It won't happen. I didn't raise my fist and say BLM, and I'm not going to condemn the people they want me to condemn just so that I can get a little pat on their head, on my head from them. It's not important to me. What's important to me is I live free. And that, frankly, is what it means to be an American.
That is incredibly powerful. And like I said, kudos to Megyn Kelly because she's telling the truth. It has always been about Israel. It is not about morality. And by the way, even if she did come out outright and condemn me, that would buy her maybe until next week. If she didn't say the next thing they wanted her to say, they would destroy her. We have seen this pattern over and over again. I'm one of the people that suffered from this pattern. I don't like what's happening in Gaza. Look what they did to me. Look what's happening with Charlie. Does this make any sense to you? Charlie was, for a fact, having plenty of doubts about Israel. Anybody in his inner circle can tell you that. And yet people in his inner circle are not telling you that. Instead, they are spending money and going after influencers from the very beginning to influence people to believe that Candace was lying about this fact. And now we have a predicament when even the person closest to Charlie, his wife, is being caught telling lies. These are lies. It is inexplicable why her assistant was pulled back on September 10th. Maybe it is actually, maybe it is something that can be explained, then they should explain it. This is way too coincidental. I want to be very clear on my perspective on this. I believe this is a conspiracy. I don't believe that this just keeps happening and no one can give answers, and that Charlie really was just so excited the night before that he slept in his daughter's bed and we don't know what happened here. Sweep it all under the rug. Nobody talk about what happened at the Hamptons. He just needed advice from Josh Hammer. They're asking us to be really stupid right now. And I'm asking you to join me in refusing that order. Anyway, we are going to pause here and take a brief break before I respond to a TikToker who has called me over in an internet game of Red Rover. And I have something to say about what she has shared. We'll be right back. All right, you guys, inflation has been skyrocketing and it does not seem like it is going to slow down anytime soon.